If emotional, slow burn stories about broken people quietly becoming a family touch your heart, please like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next cinematic story on this channel. On the 34th floor of a glass tower in downtown Seattle, the city looked calm. Traffic slid along the wet streets. Ferries moved across the gray water. People hurried with umbrellas, small and distant. Inside the boardroom of Reed Labs, nothing felt calm at all. Nathan Reed stood alone at the end of the long table, fingers resting on a stack of documents. The words sat at the top of the page, heavy and final. He had spent half his life building this company out of borrowed offices and old laptops. He had called in every favor, pulled every all-nighter, watched his team grow from 3 exhausted 20-somethings to hundreds of engineers and sales reps and support staff. He used to believe in this story. Technology to make ordinary lives easier. Honest numbers. Clear lines. Somewhere along the way, during the last bull run, the lines had blurred. Investors wanted faster growth. They wanted creative accounting. They wanted him to project confidence even when the numbers looked sick. Now, after a year of rising costs and slowing deals, the numbers had stopped listening to his optimism. The CFO's projections sat in front of him: negative cash flow, dried up credit, investors demanding their money back. His hand tightened around the pen. He thought of his father, a small-town accountant whose creative bookkeeping had landed people's retirement funds in a hole. That scandal had swallowed their childhood home, their car, his mother's security. Nathan had sworn he would never be that man. He would never sign something that ruined people's lives. But if he didn't sign this, he told himself, more damage would come slowly. Missed payroll, lawsuits, chaos instead of a controlled fall. Down in the lobby, the lawyers were waiting. He exhaled, the sound barely louder than the hum of the air conditioning, and set the pen down. "I'll sign downstairs," he said. The empty room did not answer. On the ground floor, the lobby of Reed Labs gleamed. Marble floor, high ceilings, a wall of glass framing the rain-washed city, a line of turnstiles that hummed as badges passed. Near the security desk, a woman in a faded coat stood with her daughter. Claire Jensen kept her shoulders squared and her chin up, though her stomach churned with nerves. The email from the cleaning company had said to come in person to pick up her schedule for the week. The job wasn't much: night shifts, trash cans, bathrooms, but it was something. Behind her, June pressed both hands against the glass, watching the rain. "Don't lick it," Claire murmured. "I'm not," June said. "I'm just looking." June was 5, small for her age, with a serious brow and big eyes that seemed to notice everything. She had lined up the 3 plastic animals from her pocket on the edge of the lobby chair, the smallest first, the largest last, exactly evenly spaced. When the security guard had set down a stack of visitor badges, she had reached over and straightened them. 2. Now she traced a line in the fog her breath left on the window, making careful swirls. Claire's phone buzzed with a message from the landlord, another reminder about the rent. She swallowed, thumb hovering over the screen. "Miss Jensen," a woman in a blazer called. Claire turned. The HR assistant from the cleaning company stood with a folder in hand. "Here are your assignments," the woman said. "You'll be rotating between Reed Labs and the law firm next door. Mostly evenings, some early mornings. Background check is still pending, so this is temporary." Claire took the folder. "Thank you," she said. The woman's smile had the tightness of someone who had read the words defaulted mortgage and legal dispute on a credit report and filed them away. "We'll be in touch," she said. Claire nodded. As she turned, June bumped into a man coming out of the elevator with a stack of binders. "Sorry," June said automatically. The top binder slid sideways. Paper spilled like a small white waterfall. "Damn it," the man muttered. "Language," the security guard called. "Sorry," the man added, kneeling to gather the mess. Claire dropped to her knees too. "I'm so sorry," she said. "We should have watched where we—" "It's fine," he said, flustered. "I shouldn't be carrying all this at once." June crouched beside them. One sheet had landed a little apart from the others. Face up on the floor, a thick grid of numbers marched across it, all in neat columns. June's eyes narrowed. Claire reached for it, but June picked it up first. She stared at a column near the middle, lips moving silently as she counted. The numbers went 3.2, 3.2, 3.2, 3.2, 32.0. June's finger hovered. "Sir," she said. The man looked over, another stack of papers in his hands. "Yes," he asked, distracted. "This number is different," she said. Her finger tapped the 32.0. "And all the others are the same, like a pattern. And this one is wrong." Claire flushed. "I'm sorry," she said, reaching for June. "She just likes numbers." The man took the page, eyes skimming the line she pointed at. His brow furrowed. He looked again. Then he went still. "I have to take this upstairs," he said, voice suddenly tight. He stuffed the papers into the nearest binder, half sorted, and turned toward the elevator. "Thank you," he said to Claire and June, already moving. "You're welcome," June said, though she wasn't sure for what. Claire watched him go, more confused than anything. She squeezed June's hand. "Come on," she said. "We need to catch the bus." Behind them, the elevator doors closed with a soft thud. Upstairs, the boardroom filled with bodies and anxiety. The CFO laid out his spreadsheets. The lead investor dialed in from New York. The bankruptcy attorney opened her laptop, ready to guide the signatures. Nathan walked in last. The CFO, Pete, slid a packet toward him. "We're cutting it close," Pete said under his breath. "The sooner we file, the better." Nathan flipped through the pages out of habit, even though he had already read them 3 times. Numbers blurred. He thought of his father's hands ink-stained, trembling signing papers that would wipe out people's savings. He thought of the small hand that had tugged at his sleeve in the lobby and the clear little voice saying, "This number is different." The door opened. The man from the lobby rushed in, binder clutched to his chest. "Sorry," he panted. "I know we're about to start, but I found something." He slid the single page onto the table. Nathan leaned closer. The error jumped out at him now that he knew where to look. A misplaced decimal. A projected expense mislabeled as monthly when it should have been yearly. One wrong figure had cascaded. Charts built on that bad line had painted the future darker than it was. "How did this happen?" the investor demanded through the speaker. Pete's face went pale. I don't know," he said. "It must have slipped when we—" Nathan's pulse thudded in his ears. He didn't know if it was a mistake or sabotage. He didn't care yet. What mattered was that the numbers, when corrected, told a different story, not a rosy one. There would still be layoffs, cuts, pain, but not a death sentence. He sat down slowly. "We're not signing today," he said. The attorney looked up, startled. "Mr. Reed, we built a plan on faulty data," he said. "We fix the data, then we talk about plans." He turned the speaker toward himself. "Give me 2 weeks," he said to the investor. "We cut non-core projects, sell what we can, refocus on the product that actually works. If we still can't make it, I'll sign, but not today." "Not blind." There was a pause. "You have 10 days, the investor said. "After that, no more capital." The line went dead. Nathan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He looked down at the page with the corrected number. On the margin, in the faintest smudge of graphite, was the mark of a small finger. 10 days later, Reed Labs was bruised but breathing. Pet projects were shelved. The fancy in-house barista bar was gone. Some offices were empty where teams had been cut. The mood in the elevator had shifted from dread to wary hope. The story in the tech blogs called it a miracle turnaround. They praised Nathan's decisive leadership, his clear-eyed assessment of reality, his bold restructuring. They did not mention the girl in the lobby, but Nathan thought of her every time he saw that column on the revised spreadsheet. He had asked the man from the lobby, who was she? No one knew. The cleaning company had sent a list of employees. No child was on it. Security footage had shown a woman and a girl, but the video cut off as they left. Faces turned away. The only clue he had found was a note from HR applicant Claire Jensen had been rejected for an in-house janitorial role because of unstable financial history. He traced the name with his thumb. "Can you get me her address?" he asked his assistant. She raised an eyebrow. "Officially," he said, I want to send a thank you note to everyone who came in for interviews that week. Of course, she replied. He did not mention the small voice echoing in his head. Sir, this number is different. The apartment building smelled like boiled cabbage and bleach. Nathan climbed the stairs, cardboard box under one arm. Somewhere a baby cried. A TV blared a game show in Spanish. Pipes rattled in the walls. He found the number he was looking for and knocked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door opened a few inches, held in place by a chain. Claire peered out. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot. Her sweater had seen better days. She looked tired in the way people do when mornings and nights blur together. Recognition flickered across her face. She began. Nathan lifted the box, feeling suddenly awkward. I wanted to say thank you, he said. Properly, and I brought something. She closed the door, slid the chain off, and opened it fully. The tiny apartment behind her was neat and sparse. A couch with one arm sagging, a thrift store coffee table, a pile of children's books in the corner. On the floor, a blanket laid out with crayons and a half-finished drawing. June sat there, cross-legged, sorting crayons by length. When she saw him, she froze. Her eyes went from the box to his face. Hi, Nathan said. Again. Claire stepped aside. You didn't have to come here, she said. It was nothing. It wasn't nothing, he said. He set the box on the coffee table and opened it. Inside were a few things he had picked and almost at random, and then second-guessed a dozen times a set of wooden pattern blocks, a beginner puzzle book full of number games, a few paperbacks for adults, a bag of groceries. June's eyes went wide at the pattern blocks. She reached out, then looked at her mother for permission. Claire nodded. June pulled the box closer and began laying the blocks out on the blanket, creating a careful line of diamonds and hexagons. Nathan turned to Claire. The morning you were at the lobby, he said, my company was hours away from filing for bankruptcy protection. I was going to sign. One of the numbers in our forecast was wrong. Your daughter saw it. Because of that, we have a chance we didn't think we had. Claire stared at him. She blinked once, twice, then shook her head. She just likes patterns. She said, it was luck. Maybe. He allowed, but sometimes luck arrives in very specific shapes. I wanted you to know, not the PR version. The truth. She looked past him at the gray light outside the hallway window. I'm glad it worked out, she said. People keeping jobs. That matters. It does, he said. And you made that possible. You both did. He hesitated. I also heard you didn't get the cleaning job. He added, I'm sorry. For whatever my company contributed to that. She stiffened. That's not on you, she said. I made some bad choices. Signed things I shouldn't have. The system doesn't forget. Her jaw tightened. I used to teach preschool, she said, as if daring him to believe it. Then I married the wrong man. Twice. Second one convinced me to put everything in my name. When he left, he took the furniture and left me the debt. Turns out, when you owe enough, classrooms don't want you near their students. The sentence came out flat, like she had rehearsed it. Nathan thought of his father's signature on false returns, the way numbers had turned into handcuffs. I'm sorry, he said. She lifted a shoulder. We adapt, she said. My kid is fed. She goes to school. We have walls around us. That's more than some. June held up a pattern. Look, she said. Now all the hexagons are friends. Nathan smiled. That's beautiful, he said. He stayed for a cup of instant coffee he didn't need. Sitting at the wobbly table while June narrated her block arrangements and Claire kept one eye on the old oven as noodles boiled. He didn't stay long. He left with the taste of instant coffee and the image of a little girl on a worn blanket building perfect patterns out of cheap wooden shapes. On his way back to the sleek elevator that would carry him to his top-floor office, the contrast made his chest tight. He had been given a second chance on the 34th floor. Down here, second chances were scarce. Weeks turned into months. Reed Labs adjusted to its leaner shape. The fancy espresso machine was gone, but the health insurance got better. A new emergency fund quietly helped employees who were dealing with layoffs in their own households. Medical bills, unexpected crises. In meetings, Nathan started asking different questions. How does this change affect the people on the ground? What happens to the support team if we move this offshore? Can we afford not to spend on mental health? The board frowned sometimes. Investors grumbled about margins. He walked a line he was still learning to see. On Saturdays, he took the bus instead of his car, a hoodie instead of his suit. He would show up at Claire's building with a bag of fresh bagels, or a library tote filled with kids' books, or tickets to the Science Museum's free day. He always asked first, "Do you have plans?" He would say, "Would it be okay if I stole you for a few hours?" Sometimes Claire said yes. Sometimes she said no, chin lifting, reminding both of them that she was not a charity case to be scheduled. June always lit up when he appeared, but she seemed to understand when her mother shook her head. On days they went out, June would walk between them, one hand in each of theirs when crossing streets. At the museum, she darted from exhibit to exhibit, absorbed in the way marbles rolled down tracks and lights responded to sound. She caught patterns he didn't see until she pointed them out. At 4, it always turns blue, she observed one day, watching a spinning wheel. And at 8, and at 12. That's because it's dividing the circle, Nathan said. Just like a clock. How many pieces can it have, she asked. As many as you want, he said, as long as they fit. She frowned, thinking. Claire watched them from a bench, coffee cooling in her hands. Something in her chest ached and eased at the same time. Nathan did something else that felt small and enormous at the same time. He made an appointment with a therapist. The office was in an unremarkable building, nothing like his own gleaming tower. The room had a couch he did not trust himself to sit on without thinking of cliches, so he chose the chair instead. The therapist, a man in his 50s with gentle eyes, listened as Nathan talked about numbers and fathers and signatures. Every decision in my life has had a spreadsheet attached, Nathan said. This one doesn't. I don't know how to quantify obligation to my employees, to them. Them, the therapist asked. A woman and her daughter, Nathan said. The girl pointed out a mistake that saved my company. The mother has had her life wrecked by bad signatures. I can't be another man whose decision ruins everything. Is not making a decision any safer, the therapist asked. Nathan stared at the window. Rain dotted the glass. I don't know, he said. It was the most honest he had felt in months. One evening, after a long day of negotiations, Nathan stopped by Claire's building unannounced. He usually texted first. This time, something pulled him there before he could think better of it. He climbed the stairs, memorized by now, and knocked. Claire opened after a moment, phone in hand, face pale. On the floor, June sat near the couch, arms wrapped around her knees. Is everything okay, Nathan asked. Claire hesitated. He called, she said. Who, he asked, though he already knew. The man who made the debts mine, she said. He found my number again. He says he can help me fix things if I meet him. Her mouth twisted on the word. Nathan's jaw tightened. What did you say, he asked. That I don't owe him anything, she said. That I'm done listening. Her hands were shaking. He noticed the way she stood between him and June, an unconscious shield. Do you think he'll actually do anything, Nathan asked carefully. Claire exhaled. He's a coward, she said. But cowardly men still hurt people. They just prefer doing it from behind signatures and screens. June's voice floated up from the floor, small and tense. Is he my dad, she asked. Claire swallowed. He's the man whose name is on some papers, she said. But being a dad is more than that. She glanced at Nathan, then away. I'm sorry, she said to him. You didn't come here to walk into this. I came to see how you were, he said. This is part of that. He left that night with the sound of June's question echoing. Is he my dad? The answer hung between the three of them, unfinished. Months blurred again. The company kept evolving. So did whatever lived between the three of them. Nathan's visits became a rhythm June seemed to count on. Saturdays at the park, Sunday afternoons at the library, the occasional weeknight when he stopped by with takeout and they ate at the small table, elbows almost touching. He tried once to say more. It happened on the rooftop of the Reed Labs building. Claire had agreed to meet him there after work so he could show her the lights from above. They stood near the edge. Cities spread out around them. Wind tugged at Claire's hair. The glass barrier reflected their faces in faint double. "I like it up here," she said. "It makes everything look small." "The problems?" he asked. "The illusions," she replied. "The shiny buildings, the stories we tell ourselves about who has it together." He smiled. "You think I don't have it together?" he asked. "I think you have a whole floor full of people making sure it looks like you do," she said. He laughed quietly. Silence fell, comfortable and not. He could feel the words pressing against his teeth. "I don't just want to be the guy who shows up with bagels anymore," he said finally. "Or the man June calls when she can't figure out a pattern. I want to be in your life, really in it, not just on the edges." Claire's jaw clenched. "That's not a casual thing to say," she said. "I know," he replied. "You're a CEO," she said. "You have options. I'm a woman with bad credit and a daughter and a history of choosing wrong. I don't have anything simple to offer you, just complications." He shook his head. "You have more than that," he said. Her eyes flashed. "I can't afford another wrong man," she said. "Not just for me, for her. If you decide one day this is too messy, you get to walk away. We're the ones left vacuuming the hole you leave." The wind picked up, whipping hair across her face. "I'm not asking you to decide tonight," he said. "I'm telling you where I am." "Then hear where I am," she replied. "Right now, the only thing I can accept from you is Saturday mornings and puzzle books. Because if I let it be more and it goes the way the rest went, I don't know if I'd have anything left." He swallowed. "Okay," he said quietly. "I hear you." He did not try to touch her hand. He did not lean in. On his way back down in the elevator, he looked at his reflection in the mirrored walls and saw a man torn between caution and longing. He wondered which one would win. The board pushed harder. The investors who had given him 10 days now wanted 10 quarters of double-digit growth. "Your little people-first initiatives are cute," one of them said in a meeting, "but they don't move the stock price. They keep the people who move the stock price from burning out," Nathan replied. "There's a recession coming," another said. "We need to show discipline, cut the fat, especially any non-core spending." They slid a list across the table. It included the emergency fund and a proposed community program he had been drafting quietly, one that would partner with nonprofits to help single parents untangle predatory debts and rebuild their credit. He stared at the line item. His father's face flashed in his memory. "You can't let emotions drive the business," the chair of the board said. "Not if you want to keep this job." He heard his own voice in the rooftop air, saying to Claire, "I want to be in your life." He picked up the pen. His hand shook. He signed. The room relaxed. The program died on paper before it was ever born. On the bus home that night, surrounded by people scrolling through their phones and staring out windows, he stared at his own signature on the copy of the document in his bag. He felt sick. He thought of Claire, sitting at her kitchen table, balancing overdue notices. He thought of June, sorting crayons. He had chosen safety for his company. He did not know yet how much it had cost him. The man who had broken Claire's life returned to it with more than a phone call. One afternoon, as parents gathered outside June's kindergarten, he appeared on the sidewalk. He leaned against the fence, cigarette in hand, talking loudly about his little girl. Claire's friend from down the hall texted her a shaky photo. "Is this him?" the message read. "He says he's June's dad." Claire's vision blurred as she looked at the image. He had the same smug tilt to his mouth, the same lazy posture. She called the school and asked them to keep June inside until she arrived. By the time she got there, he was gone. June refused to talk that night. She lay stiff in her bed, face turned to the wall. When Claire finally coaxed words out of her, they came broken. "If he's my dad," June whispered, "does that mean Mr. Nate has to stop coming?" The question cut deeper than any letter from a debt collector. "No," Claire said immediately. "It doesn't mean that." But inside, fear whispered. What if the law said otherwise? She went to see a lawyer at a cramped legal aid office. The woman there listened, took notes, and frowned. "You need a restraining order," she said. If he's showing up at the school, that's harassment. We can also reopen the case around the mortgage. There may be ways to prove coercion, shift responsibility. Claire's stomach turned at the thought of courts, judges, paperwork. Reopen, she repeated. Does that mean everything goes public again? Possibly, so, the lawyer said. But you'll be taking control, not just waiting to see what he does next. Control. It sounded like a luxury. She left with a folder clutched to her chest and legal words buzzing in her ears. That night, she called Nathan. She hated doing it. She did it anyway. He listened without interrupting. I can ask our corporate counsel to advise, he said. Off the record, they're good. I don't want to drag you into this, she said. You're already in it, he replied. That's enough for me. The restraining order went through. Papers were served. Court dates were set. Claire sat in front of a judge and described, with as much calm as she could, the way a man had charmed her into signing away her security. The judge's pen moved. The order was granted. On paper, she and June were safer. In practice, fear did not care about paper. It arrived late one night as fists on her door. The thin walls of the building shook with the force of the pounding. Claire, a voice slurred. Open up. We need to talk. You can't hide behind cops forever. June screamed from her bedroom, but Claire's body moved before her mind caught up, and she grabbed her phone, dialed 911 with shaking fingers, and stepped in front of June's door. Her eyes stayed on the doorknob, willing it not to turn. The hallway filled with shouting and by the sound of someone kicking the wall. On the stairs, Nathan was climbing, takeout bag in one hand, his other hand on the rail. He heard the yelling before he reached their floor. His heart lurched. He dropped the bag and ran the rest of the way up. The man stood in the hallway, fist raised, face flushed with rage and cheap liquor. Nathan stepped between him and the door without thinking. That's enough, he said. The man sneered. Who the hell are you, he demanded. Her new sugar daddy. This is between me and my woman. She isn't your anything, Nathan said. And there's a court order with your name on it that says you're supposed to be somewhere else. The man shoved him. Nathan's shoulder slammed into the opposite wall. He steadied himself. If you want to threaten someone, Nathan said, voice low but clear, threaten me. I have assets. I have something you can take. But you don't get to stand here and scare a 5-year-old girl because you like feeling big. A door down the hall opened a crack. A neighbor peeked out, phone in hand, recording. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. The man cursed, eyes darting from Nathan's steady gaze to the camera to the stairwell. For a second, Nathan thought he might swing. He didn't. He spit on the ground, muttered something about not worth it, and stumbled toward the stairs. Police officers passed him on the way up. By the time they had sorted everything, taken statements, and led the man away in cuffs for violating the restraining order, Claire's hands had stopped shaking, but only barely. June clung to her, face pressed against her stomach. Nathan stood in the small living room, feeling too large and too useless at the same time. I'm sorry, he said. For what? Claire asked hoarsely. For not getting here sooner? He replied. For a world where a piece of paper isn't enough to keep someone like that away. She sank onto the couch. June crawled into her lap. Claire looked up at him. You put yourself between him and my child, she said. That's not nothing. He shrugged, uncomfortable. It felt like the only choice. He said, then thank you, she replied, for making it. After the hallway incident, the legal process sped up. The man's violation of the restraining order did him no favors in court. Claire's lawyer found grounds to challenge parts of the mortgage she'd been tricked into signing. Predatory practices, misrepresentation, boxes ticked without proper explanation. The more they dug, the more there was to dig. It's good, the lawyer said. It strengthens our case. It makes me feel like I'm picking at a wound that never healed, Claire replied. One evening, the dining table disappeared under stacks of paperwork. Old bank statements, court filings, letters from collection agencies, copies of contracts with dense, tiny text. Nathan sat opposite Claire, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. June slept in the bedroom, exhausted from nightmares and late-night adult whispers. The clock ticked. The fridge hummed. No one talked. Claire stared at a page showing the first mortgage payment she had failed to make. "I remember signing this," she said quietly. He poured wine, made a joke about us being real grown-ups now. "I thought I was building a home for my daughter." Nathan watched her hands tighten around the paper. "Every time I hold a pen now," she said, "I hear his voice. I feel stupid. I wonder which line I missed this time." Nathan looked down at his own hands. "Every time I sign something," he said, "I see my father's name on tax returns that ruined people's retirements. I tell myself I'm different. Then I sign papers that cut programs and lay people off, and I wonder if I'm just breaking things slower." She met his gaze. "You signed away your program for people like me," she said. It wasn't accusation, just observation. He swallowed. "Yes," he said. "Why?" she asked. "Because the board said it was a distraction," he said. "Because they reminded me how many people depend on this company existing at all. Because I was afraid of losing my job and taking everyone down with me." He let out a breath. "Because I was a coward," he added. They sat with that, two people whose signatures had been used as weapons. One by someone else. One, sometimes, by himself. "Maybe," Claire said slowly, "we both deserve better from ourselves." "Maybe," he agreed. They worked in silence for a while after that, sorting papers into piles: keep, shred, send. The air between them felt raw and honest. No promises, no performances. Just two tired adults doing the slow work of cleaning up old disasters. The legal aid office had limited resources. Reed Labs did not. Nathan met with his corporate lawyer in a conference room that smelled like new carpet and stale coffee. "I need help," he said. "Not for the company, for someone else." He laid out Claire's situation: the predatory loan, the vanished partner, the restraining order, the reopened case. "I want us to support her," he said, "personally and as a company, legal fees, education, whatever it takes to get her out from under this." The lawyer sat back. "You realize there's risk," he said. "If this becomes public, you'll be tying your name and the company's to a very messy story. Investors might not love it." "I know," Nathan said. "We already cut a program that could have helped people like her once. I'm not going to make the same choice again." The lawyer nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Then we do it properly. Above board, transparent, no backroom fixes." He paused. "And you talk to your board," he added, "before they read about it in the press." Nathan's stomach clenched. He had known this was coming. He still didn't like the taste of it. The boardroom looked different when you walked in, planning to tell them something they didn't want to hear. Nathan stood at the head of the table, hands on the cool surface. "I made a mistake," he said. The sentence startled the room into silence. "I signed off on cutting our community program before it even began," he said. "Not because it was useless, but because I was afraid of you, of the market, of becoming my father." He took a breath. "I've met the kind of person that program was meant to help," he continued. "She works 3 jobs. She keeps a little girl fed in a city that doesn't care if they disappear. She signed papers she didn't understand because she believed someone who said he loved her. Now she spends every day crawling out from under it." He looked each board member in the eye. "I want Reed Labs to stand for something more than survival," he said. "I want us to be the company that uses its lawyers for people who can't afford one. That sets up funds not just for employees, but for the communities we rely on." The chair leaned back, skeptical. "Is this about a woman you're involved with?" he asked. "It's about the kind of man I'm choosing to be," Nathan replied, "and the kind of company I'm willing to run." Murmurs rippled. "This will cost money," another board member said. "So do lawsuits when you treat people like numbers," Nathan said. "So do scandals when CEOs hide their lives. I'm not hiding this. I'm telling you, if I'm going to put my name on papers that affect someone like Claire, I want those papers to help, not harm." The conversation lasted hours. Some threatened to call for a vote to remove him. Others, quieter, seemed moved. In the end, there was no dramatic walkout. There was a begrudging agreement, a reduced budget for the program, more oversight, conditions, but it existed. On paper, it was a start. Nathan left the room drained and oddly light. For the first time in years, his father's shadow felt a little less heavy on his shoulders. Time moved, as it always did. Claire began working part-time as a liaison for the new program. Her days were still full, cleaning offices, attending court dates, meeting with other single parents who had signed things they didn't understand. But now, when she sat at a table with forms spread out, she wasn't alone. She had a legal team behind her. NSA, her own debts didn't vanish overnight. They were renegotiated, restructured, turned from an impossible mountain into a climb she could see the top of. June loved the new office where the program was housed. There were bright posters and a play area with puzzles and books. Sometimes she would curl up in a corner while Claire talked with other mothers. Sometimes she would sit at a whiteboard and draw shapes. Nathan would drop by when he could, leaving his phone face down in his pocket. He didn't talk much in those meetings. He listened. Feels strange, Claire said once, watching him. What does he ask? Having someone with your kind of resources sit and listen instead of tell us what to do, she said. He smiled, a little crooked. Listening is cheaper, he said. Not in time, she replied. He shrugged. It's the only way I know I'm signing the right things, he said. June grew. Her front teeth came in crooked. Her handwriting got a little neater. Her questions got sharper. One evening, she came home from her new school with a crumpled flyer. Daddy and Me Day, Claire read aloud. The words pressed on something inside her. It's just one morning, June said quickly. We don't have to go. Her voice was too casual. Claire knelt so they were eye level. Do you want to go? She asked. June twisted the hem of her shirt. Sometimes at recess, the kids talk about what their dads do, she said. They say things like, my dad builds bridges, or my dad flies planes. I say nothing. Then they look at me like I'm missing. Claire's throat tightened. You are not missing, she said, but you are whole. You are. I know you say that, June interrupted, but I still feel it. She hesitated. I don't want to feel it that day, she said. Just for once. Claire's heart hurt. Who would you want to bring, she asked. June looked down at her socks. Her answer was quiet, but clear. Nate, she said. If he comes, I won't feel like I'm missing one. The room went still. Claire sat back on her heels. The legal term father did not apply to Nathan. The birth certificate belonged to someone else. The law was slow to recognize what love already knew. But her daughter's words were simple. If he comes, I won't feel like I'm missing one. Claire picked up the flyer. Let's ask him, she said. Nathan listened to June's request with more attention than he gave most investor pitches. They sat in the small living room, the flyer between them. June's legs swung nervously off the edge of the couch. So, he said gently, you want me to come to your school as what? June frowned, thinking, not as CEO, she said. They don't care about that. They just care if you sit on the carpet and build towers. That I can try, he said, and not as mom's friend who brings bagels, she added. He swallowed. What then, he asked. She looked up at him. As the one who stays, she said. The words landed in his chest with unexpected force. He glanced at Claire. Her eyes were wet, but she nodded. He looked back at June. Then yes, he said, I'll come. As that, June's shoulders dropped with relief. Okay, she said. We have to make a poster about you. What you like. What you're good at. I wrote numbers already. He laughed. Fair enough, he said. He did not sleep much the night before Daddy and Me Day. He stood in front of his mirror, tie in hand, and for once did not care whether it matched the image of a tech CEO. He cared whether it matched the image in a 5-year-old's mind of the one who stays. In the end, he left the tie off. June met him at the school door, hair in pigtails, eyes bright. She handed him a sticker that said, Hi, I'm June's with a blank line. He looked at it. He looked at her. What should I write, he asked. She considered. Then she took the marker from his hand and wrote, in careful letters, Nathan. That's your name? She said. That's who you are. He stuck the sticker to his shirt. In the classroom, other men jostled for space on small chairs. Some wore suits, some wore work uniforms. One had paint on his jeans. The teacher clapped her hands. "Okay, everyone," she said. "We're going to introduce our guests. Tell us who they are and what you like to do together." One by one, kids stood up. "This is my dad. He fixes cars. We play catch. This is my uncle. He makes pizza. We make pizza too." When it was June's turn, she stood, hands twisting. "This is Nathan," she said. "He's not my dad on paper, but he's the one who stayed. We do patterns and we eat bagels on Saturdays." The room was quiet for a moment. Then the teacher smiled. "That sounds wonderful," she said. "Welcome, Nathan." As the children dispersed to stations, June grabbed his hand and pulled him toward a corner carpet covered in blocks. "Let's build something," she said. They sat on the floor, knees bumping small bodies as towers went up and fell. At one point, Nathan looked up and caught Claire's eye through the classroom window. She stood in the hall, watching, one hand pressed lightly against the glass. He smiled. She smiled back. There was no grand gesture in that moment, no proposal, no sudden swell of music, just a quiet agreement. We are here. We are staying. A few weeks later, they sat together at a small cafe near the office where Claire now split her time. The place had mismatched chairs and a jar of sugar packets on each table. Above the door, a cheap metal wind chime tinkled every time someone came in. June sat between them, drawing circles on a napkin. Claire sipped her coffee. "You know," she said, nodding toward the chime, "when I first started coming here, that sound made me nervous. It meant someone was coming in. Another set of eyes. Another possible problem." And now Nathan asked, "Now it just sounds like life," she said. "People going in and out, and me still here." He tilted his head, listening as the door opened and the chime sang its thin song. "I brought you something," he said. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small box. Her brows knitted. "Nathan," she began. "It's not a ring," he said quickly. "If that's what you're thinking." She laughed. A little too loud. June glanced up, then returned to her circles. He opened the box. Inside was a wind chime. Not fancy, simple wooden pieces and small metal tubes that would make a soft, gentle sound. "I saw it and thought of this place," he said. "Of you sitting here, listening to that noise and not being afraid anymore." She lifted it out of the box. It chimed faintly, even in the still air. "If you ever want me in your life," he said, feeling suddenly foolish and brave at once, "hang it where I can hear it. Or not. It's yours, either way. I just wanted you to have something that reminds you you're allowed to call in the people who stay." She turned the chime in her hands. The wood was warm under her fingers. "Thank you," she said. June looked up. "Can we put it by our window?" she asked. "So I can hear when the wind says hi." Claire smiled. "Maybe we can," she said. Later that evening, in the small apartment that had seen too many bad nights and was finally beginning to collect good ones, Claire stood by the living room window with a hammer and a small nail. June sat on the couch, holding the chime carefully. "Higher," she said, "so it can dance." Nathan stood nearby, pretending not to supervise. Claire tapped the nail into the frame and hung the chime. For a moment, it was still, then a breeze slipped through a gap in the window. The chime rang, soft, clear, not demanding. Just there. June grinned. "It sounds like the cafe," she said. "It sounds like home," Claire replied. She stepped back. The room looked the same as it had that first day Nathan had visited sagging couch, wobbly table, stack of children's books. But it felt different. There were new things now. Court papers that said she was safe. A program that paid her not just to survive, but to help others. A girl who knew she could ask for more than silence. And a man who stood in the doorway, watching them with a look that was not pity, not heroism, just presence. June climbed onto the couch and wedged herself between them. She leaned her head on Claire's shoulder and pressed her leg against Nathan's. Outside, the city moved as always. Inside, 3 people sat under the soft sound of wind on metal and wood. They did not have a contract that bound them. They had something else. They had a little girl who had once pointed at a wrong number and In doing so, giving them all a chance to write new ones. They had a man who had learned to sign his name on things that healed instead of hurt. They had a woman who had chosen, finally, uh, not just to survive, but to invite someone to stay. And above their heads, the small wind chime rang again, as if agreeing that, this time, the pattern was right.